This is my sister from another mister, Robin, Blunt Sagittarius, the Tarot Room for Capricorns and Sagittarius. Y'all know who she is. Y'all go like, share, subscribe to her. I always drop her links in the chat. This is lessons 1 through 3 on how to read tarot. Let me get my screen share up here. See, can I get it going? Okay. Share. All right.
My tarot course on how to read the tarot. So let's talk about this. So this is going to be for beginners. This is for an introductory. This is how you can use the tarot to benefit you and your life. So tarot is a divination tool, a tool that can help us recognize patterns, a tool that can help us get the answers that we seek, a tool that can benefit us in our journey called life. So with this course, we're going to go through the major arcanas, which is what I have presented here today. I've decided to do the layout this way for the majors. It'll be a little different than the others because there's so many. But the reason that I've done this is the major arcanas are a journey of our soul. We start as the magician, we end with the world, and it's taking our soul through a cycle. And once we're done the cycle, that's when we get the new beginning. So I've decided to start with the major arcanas, and then we'll move into the court cards. Then we're going to go into the suits and what each card represents. And then I'll do one final video on layouts, how to interpret the cards together, how to match them, how to read them, how to get your intuition into it. So I want to make a few statements that when it comes to tarot, there is no right or wrong. There's what's right for you and what you're comfortable doing. Now, when you're beginning, I highly recommend you just read the cards upright. But if you want to use tarot as the proper tool and get all the messages that you need to get, you really do need to learn how to read them in reversal. And when it comes to reversal, the easiest thing to remember is it's basically the opposite of the upright meaning. Now, as well, with regards to tarot, not every card has one meaning. So a card just doesn't mean one thing, and that's the meaning of the card. They do have typical meanings. They have, standard things they represent, but you have to be able to look at the layout and pick up patterns within them. And we will go over that when we come to how to read the cards and create your story and create your adventure. So let's start with the major arcanas. As you can see, they're placed on the table. I put little band-aids over the nudity because we got to stay PG-13 here on YouTube. They've added a little thing. So when it comes to the major arcanas are the major changes in our life. They represent major people, major influences, and the major energies that are coming around us. When it comes to the suits, those represents our daily changes, our daily things, going to the movies, getting a new job, the things that we go through on a regular basis. So let's just get into this. Now, we begin reading. It is not, when I first started reading, I just kept the book with me until you had them all memorized. It's just about practice, practice, practice. The more tarot you watch, the more tarot you read, you're going to start to familiarize yourself with the cards themselves. You can also use the symbolism and the imagery on the cards to help you remember what they mean. But really, you should have a basic understanding of what each card means. So let's get into it. As I said, the major arcanas, which is the trump, number from 1 to 21. So I don't include the Fool here because the Fool is a 0. So the Fool happens at any time in your life when you've learned your lesson, when your soul has gone through its journey, when the cycle is complete. That's when you get your new beginning. So we'll talk about the Fool at the very end because he kind of comes after the World is when you get your new beginning. So we're going to take this card by card. We're just going to go over each card in the major arcana as we go through the journey. I'll compare them. I'll kind of talk about things that are separate or different within each cards as we go through. So let's get into this. I do hope this helps you. I love tarot, and I feel tarot is a great tool to help us through our journey. So the very first card out is the Magus, the Magician, card number 1. So the Magician is a new soul. He's on a new adventure. He's on a new cycle. He's excited. He's exhilarated. He's yellow. He's happy. He's content. He is ready to take on the world. This is the card of new beginnings. This is the card of communication. This card represents a divine being having all the resources and tools from source, from God, from our creator, in order to create the life that he wants. He is very, very gifted, and he knows it. Now, the magician is in reverse. This is a magician who is lacking communication skills. This is a person who is not living up to their potential. This is a person who is blocking themselves from getting what they want in their life. So again, gifted, has all the resources, very abundant, very divine, the card of communication, the card of new beginnings, but when it's upside down, he's not living up to his potential. He's not using his gifts to get what he wants. He lacks the communication skills and the confidence to use his resources. It can also be a beginning that is not going well. That is the magician. It's a kind of like, if you want to think of it as a baby. This is the baby entering the world. It's a new soul, a new journey, and he's excited about what's to come. So the High Priestess, this is card number 2. This represents the divine feminine. It is the match to the Hierophant. If we're talking about adults, this is the husband. The Hierophant is the husband. The Priestess is the wife. The genders do not matter. It's the energy. So the High Priestess is the divine feminine. She's very intuitive. There's a lot of, I also want to say with the tarot, your journey to learning will never end. You'll never know everything you need to know. There's always different scholars and different people who interpret things differently. There's lots of fun debates and books that you can read, but I'll give you my interpretation and the way that I view things. And this little scroll in the High Priestess hand represents her knowledge. It's kind of like her book of life. And the beautiful gift of the High Priestess, she's extremely intuitive. She understands her intuition. She trusts her intuition to guide her. But she also has a beautiful blessing of turning the negatives into positives, the obstacles into blessings. So she has that gift of learning from the past, trusting her intuition, even seeing behind the veil in order to create the life she wants. She is a master of the spiritual realm, hence the High Priestess. She is the divine feminine. If you want to look at the physical, at the beauty, she's a very exotic beauty. She's not a classic beauty or classic handsomeness. She's very exotic. She stands out from the crowd, but she trusts her intuition. Now, when we have the High Priestess in reverse, this represents somebody who's keeping secrets. So we have 2 cards of secrets, which are the Moon and the High Priestess. So when we're talking about the secrets in the High Priestess, this is secrets within yourself. This is not trusting your intuition. This is not trusting your guidance. This is going against what your gut is telling you. But when we're talking about secrets in the Moon, this is external secrets. This is the external world. This is somebody else lying to you or keeping a secret from you, or something that you don't see outside of you. This is something that you're not seeing inside of you. So that is card number 2. That is the High Priestess. Card number 3 represents the Empress. So once you've mastered yourself, once you've mastered your emotions, once you've mastered your spiritual realm, well, then you're ready to master the material realm. And that's the Empress. She's very fertile. She's very abundant. She represents the...
Hey, my baby. How you doing today?
mother. She's very compassionate. This pillow represents comfort. She's comfortable in life. She is all the queens in one. So we are not born the Empress. We become the Empress through our life experiences.
Singing mood today.
So she's very successful, and she uses spiritual and natural laws that she's mastered as the High Priestess in creating the abundant life that she desires.
Shoot, man, I was grooving last night. Me and last call, and talking about, they stopped my stream. It was interrupted. Talking about my account was being used in another location. I guess because you know I have when you use many devices or something like that, they be doing that shit. They be killing. YouTube know how to fuck up a wet dream.
Look at this flow of water. Everything is flowing. Everything is abundant. Now, when this High Priestess, when the Empress is in reverse, so this represents a person, either querent or you, going against natural law, doing things against spiritual law. She could be codependent, maybe not independent, dependent on other people. She also doesn't quite value herself. She doesn't respect herself. She's not treating herself the way that she deserves to be treated. So we definitely want to be the Empress upright, going with the flow of the universe as opposed to against the universe. She's also the wife to the Emperor. So if these two cards come up in a reading, you're talking about a married couple or a couple in a long-term relationship, their husband and wife. Then we move on here to the Emperor. So this is the divine masculine. This is someone who's very successful, someone who's in control. Now, this could be somebody who's very guarded. Look at the armor underneath his suit, right? So he's a very guarded masculine, very much the alpha male, a protector of his kin, but he is somebody that could focus on work and authority a little too much.
I've been missing your behind. I love you more.
Generally, the emperor is an authority figure, a boss, a husband, a father, somebody who is who takes care of business. Nothing stops the emperor from getting what he wants.
Send me some of them edibles.
Now, when the emperor is in reverse, he can be very controlling, very explosive. He can be very manipulative. He can have lacking the work-life balance. But he's a very controlling and manipulative masculine, potentially even abusive. So it's unchecked power. Someone in a position of power, taking advantage of that and not being fair to those around him. That's the emperor. Now, once the emperor, the masculine, masters the natural realm, similar to the empress, right? He's mastered the material realm. Everything around the emperor is gold. That's when he becomes a person of influence. This is the masculine version of the high priestess. So mastering the spiritual realm, mastering all of the elements within ourselves, our intuition, but also on the physical realm. These keys represent knowledge, and he has a lot of it. He understands spiritual law. He's a person of influence. These two people are looking to this Hierophant for advice, for direction, for leadership. If you're in a love or relationship reading, as many of you may know, the Hierophant represents commitment, long-term commitment, somebody who conforms. Now let's remember that. So the Hierophant in a business reading or in a conscious reading is someone who's conforming to what society wants. They're settling in to what it is that society expects, and they're living up to those expectations. Now, when the Hierophant is in reverse, this is representing a person who's doing something non-traditional. They're going against society's expectations. They are doing things their own way. One could call them a rebel. So somebody who doesn't do things the way that society wants, somebody who goes about things their own way. There's no right or wrong. There's just what's right or wrong for this person. So generally speaking, the Hierophant is always a positive card. When it comes in reverse, it could be a person lacking commitment in a relationship reading, but somebody who's going to do things their own way and go about doing things the way that they want. So then we move on from the Hierophant to the Lovers. Now, the Lovers means that we've mastered the different aspects of this realm. We're in a position where we have a very ethical and moral decision to make. This is Adam and Eve, right? This is the snake on the tree. This is temptation. This is the tree of life, which is burning, and this is forbidden knowledge that's there. So are they going to give in to temptation and do things that they don't want to do? Or are they going to stay true to themselves and do things that they feel is right? So this is about a moral and ethical decision that a person has to make. In a love reading, as always, it could just be a soulmate, somebody that there's a strong connection with. Now, when it's upright, it's generally meaning that the person's going to stand true to their morals, stand true to their compass within themselves. They're going to do what they think is best. But when the Lovers is in reverse, it means they're leaning towards going against what they believe to be true. They're going against their morals. They're going against their ethics. And in a love reading, it could potentially mean disharmony in a relationship. So between two people, things aren't going well. There's conflict and there's disharmony. So this is a moral and ethical decision that a person needs to make, and they have to ask themselves, based on their life experience, what's best for them. When we come to the Chariot, this is a master of all realms. He's successful. He is conquering everything. He's conquered the spiritual realm. He's conquered the material realm. He is determined to get success. Nothing will stop the Chariot from success. So whatever reading you're wanting, whatever reading you're going through, whatever question you're asking, the Chariot is always a card of yes, a card of success. You're on the right path and you are determined and you will get what you want because nothing's going to stop the Chariot. Now, when we put the Chariot in reverse, usually that means the universe has put a halt. They've put a stop on you because you are going in the wrong direction and they want you going somewhere else. It's a card of no, it's not going to work out. You're not going to overcome this. You need to move somewhere different because you're going down the wrong path. Now, we're going to come down here to Strength, card number 8. Again, we have the divine symbol, right? So when we see these repeats, see how happy this card is? This is a card of divinity. It's a card of strength. It's a card of happiness. It's a card of success. It's having the courage to chase what you want. It's controlling the beast within. Your negative thoughts, your bad habits, your patterns, things like that, of that sense. You're controlling them. You're a master of yourself, and you're having the courage to chase after what it is that you want. But when the strength is in reverse, your thoughts are controlling you. You're anxious, you're nervous, you might even be depressed. You're living in the past, you're living in the future, you're not focusing on the present. You're not a master of yourself. It is the card of overwhelming emotion and needing to take a step back in order to control the thoughts and the patterns that are running through your mind. So it is a card of stress and a card of anxiety when it is in reverse. Now, after we have the strength to chase after our dreams, to master ourselves, that's when we're the hermit, right? The hermit's about inner gnosis. The hermit's not an old man. He's a wise man. The hermit's withdrawn from society, potentially taking a lonely road in life. But ultimately, the hermit is all about inner gnosis, staying true to himself. This little star, this little lamp, that's his consciousness. That's his happiness. That's him knowing who he is and pulling himself out of a situation in order to stay true to himself, right? Now, when the hermit is in reverse, this guy doesn't know himself. He's not staying true to himself. Similar to the lover's in reverse, he might be going against what is best for him, or he just has no idea what his opinions are and what he stands for. It could also represent coming out of hermit mode. He's determined what he needs to do. He knows who he is. He knows what he wants, and now he's chasing after it. Or he hasn't learned the lesson. So with the hermit, it can mean so many different things, and you will have to look at the cards around it to see which meaning it has. But that is the hermit, the card of inner gnosis, inner knowledge, the card of wisdom. And then once we truly know ourselves, once we have that wisdom within ourselves, right? That's when we get the Wheel of Fortune. That's when we have good karma. That's when things are working in our favor. This card is the card of inner alchemy. We are in control of our emotions and our feelings. We know what we want, who we are, and what it is we're trying to get, and we're going to make it happen. Again, we're working with natural and...
Hey, see, I learned how to screen share. I was determined.
...spiritual laws, and we're moving the wheel forward. This is a card of good fortune. This is a card of happiness. This is a card of luck. This is the card of getting what you want because you're in control of yourself. You've mastered the emotions. Your emotions don't control you. You control them. Now, when the Wheel of Fortune's in reverse, this represents a person who feels down on their luck, a person who, again, is working against natural law, a person who's going against the principle of cause and effect, a person who has not yet realized how their actions are having consequences in their life, and that's a realization that they need. They might be blaming other people, they might be feeling sorry for themselves, they might be feeling that they have bad luck. But the fact is they're working against spiritual law, and it's not working out to their benefit. And once we master inner alchemy, once we, the snake here can represent many things, but in this wheel, he's representing transformation. We've transformed ourselves. We're no longer giving in to lower virtues, lower temptations, right? We're in control. And that's when we get justice. This is the card of success. This is the card of truth. This is the card of balance. This is the card of good karma. If you're in a legal situation in the man-made world, in the courts, this is a card that it's going to work out in your favor. But this is a card of, again, going with natural law, moving forward with the flow of life and having success with the way that you want it. Now, when the justice is in reverse, it means that if you're in a legal situation, it's probably not going to turn out in your favor. But that's because you'll see in the future how that does benefit you. But in the moment, it's somebody feeling like something's not fair. But in reality, they went against the natural law. They went against the man-made law, and things are not turning out in their favor. They still have some lessons and things that they need to learn in order to move on in that cycle. The Hanged Man is very similar energy to the Hermit. This is, can mean a few different things, but this is kind of like Christ consciousness, Jesus hanging from the cross. He was persecuted for something that really he didn't do, but he's enlightened. So he understands what's happening. He understands the lessons that he needs to learn. He understands that he can't control other people. But it's the universe putting you in a moment of pause in order to contemplate and learn your lessons and realize why certain things have happened to you in your life. It's a time of reflection. And it's a time of persecution if you're being accused of something you didn't do. And if he's in reverse, that can mean either number one, you're coming out of that moment of pause. But if he's in reverse, you may not have learned the lessons. You may not understand why this happened to you. You may not understand the consequences of going against natural law. So when the Hangman is in reverse, there's still lessons to be learned and obstacles to be overcome in order to gain that enlightenment about yourself. And then we come to death. A lot of people get a little scared when they see death, but this is death and rebirth. This is death and transformation. The point of this card is a very difficult ending and transition in your life. It is not easy. It's not going to be easy breezy, lemon squeeze. It's going to be difficult. Now, the hidden meaning is that this is the Pope here. This is the plague. This is death. These are dead bodies. No matter who we are in life, whether we're the Pope, whether we're just a regular Joe, whether we're death, whether we're the king or the queen or a rich celeb, no matter who we are, everything will affect us. No life is perfect. No journey is done. You don't get everything that you want and then life's all butterflies and rainbows. No matter who we are, there's always obstacles. There's always challenges. There's always things to overcome in our life. And if we look in the background, let's duly note here. So this scene in the moon is the scene in the background, right? We'll get there, but there's a hidden lesson. So at the end of this transformation, going through the transformation that we may not want, we can focus on the negative. We can keep our mind frame focused on all the bad things that happened, or we can gain enlightenment and choose to focus on the future and moving forward, making better decisions for ourselves and understanding that with every ending, there is always a new beginning. Now, when death is in reverse, it is resistance to change. It is a stubbornness. It's an inability to release an old story about yourself, an old belief. You might be limiting yourself. You might not believe you deserve something because remember, in life, we manifest what we believe we deserve. So it's about releasing those old patterns, releasing those limiting beliefs, those thoughts of ourselves and other people. But this is a resistance to the change. This is going through the change and having a hard time, but this is a resistance. It could be even depression, sadness, just not letting ourselves go with the flow. It's resisting the change that the universe is trying to give to us. Now, Temperance is the card of balance. So if we look at Temperance and we look at the star, again, we're going to see some common patterns. So when these two cards come up, with a woman touching the ground, and we have a woman touching the ocean, the water. We have two cups filling each way. Temperance is the card of balance, the card of alchemy. It's the card of patience. It's the card of spirituality. It's the card of the path to enlightenment. So we stay calm under pressure. We balance the material realm with the spiritual realm. We've rised with our consciousness. Many scholars, there's debates about these cups, but what I believe is we've gone from lower consciousness and our lower virtues to higher consciousness, to our higher virtues, to living authentic and true to ourselves, increasing our frequency, raising our vibration, and living in balance. It's understanding and having patience. When Temperance is in reverse, we're out of whack. We're completely out of balance. We're not staying true to ourselves. We're letting our anger control us. We're running out of patience. We're maybe quick to anger, quick to get frustrated with ourselves or with other people. So it's about learning those lessons that master of alchemy, again, we talked about up here. These cards are cards of alchemical process, controlling our emotions, breathing before we react. But Temperance is all about patience and understanding. And as we move through, here comes the temptation. Here's the devil. So the devil is Adam and Eve, these two characters here, giving in to temptation. This is about addictions. This is about alcohol. This is about bankruptcy. This is about a fall leader. This is going down a path that you don't want to go down. His tail is on fire. So he's burning with angst. He's burning with temptation. So no, like I said, I can't remember which card I said it on, but like I said earlier, we're always going to have those temptations. We can be as rich as we want. We can be as successful as we want, but the temptations of life are never going to leave. There's always going to be those temptations. And if it shows up in a reading, it could be addictions. It could be thought patterns. It could be bankruptcy. It could be alcoholism, things like that. But it's letting the past and letting our lower virtues control us as opposed to being in control of them. And again, when he's in reverse, it's a resistance to see our own flaws. It's a resistance similar to death, is a resistance to see our responsibility in actions, in these choices, a resistance to let go of those. We probably recognize that we shouldn't be doing some of those things, but we do it anyway. So it's a little bit of a self-sabotage card. Here, maybe we don't realize it. Maybe we're giving in. Maybe we're faced with the challenge. Maybe we're struggling. But here we know it's a problem and we're just kind of ignoring it. We're not really letting it go or dealing with it. We're just pretending. And that doesn't benefit you at all. And when you give into these lower temptations, when you're giving into those lower virtues, The universe is going to smack you in the face and give you a tower moment because the foundations weren't built strong. You didn't stay true to your moral compass. So the tower moments are very difficult changes. They're very life-changing. They could be abrupt. They could be surprising, things that you don't expect. But out of the tower moment, you will get an epiphany. You will come with some realizations. You will build yourself up to the best version of yourself. You will fill in this hole, create that foundation, because you're going to learn from that mistake. You're not going to make that again. You're going to get a little epiphany here. Your crown chakra is going to be lit, and you're going to be understanding as you come to the end of this tower why this happened for you. As I always say, it didn't happen to you, it happened for you. Now again, when the tower is in reverse, it's not seeing our faults. It's holding on to old beliefs. It's a little bit of stubborn, a little bit of recklessness, but it's not accepting our responsibilities. I read it very similar to the devil and the death and rebirth in reverse. I read them very similar as a reader. We need to take responsibility for our actions. We need to see how our actions caused this. We need to understand things. And this is refusing to see that. This is staying blind to our faults. It's refusing to see those changes. It could be even just refusing to change. And then you're just going to go in this little cycle and you're just going to keep having tower moments in your life. So the tower upright is a major change. It's downright, it's a major change. But here you're going to learn from this change. You're going to see how it benefits you. And as always, after the tower comes the star. After an ending comes a new beginning. The star is again about wish fulfillment, dream come true, healing, vulnerability, messages from the gods, from your spirit team, talking to you, guiding you through this, sending you love through the material realm and the spiritual realm. But ultimately the star is dreams come true, wish fulfillment, and true authenticity. This big golden star here represents your true north, true to yourself. You're absolutely naked. You're vulnerable. You know who you are. You've learned your lessons here, and you're moving forward the balanced version of yourself. Now, when she's in reverse, when the star's in reverse, it's a hopelessness. You feel like it's never going to change. You're never going to heal. You haven't done the work. You haven't faced your shadow. You're not staying true to yourself. You could be even ignoring your intuition and the messages that your spirit guides are trying to give to you. So it's a hopeless feeling, a feeling of healing that needs to be done. Inner reflection still needs to come through so that we can stay true to ourselves and we can move forward healed. Then we're going to come to the moon, which again, we talked about earlier several times. The moon is our subconscious fears. The moon can be, well, we'll talk about that, but the moon is really our fears, things that are stuck in our subconscious. It's about facing those shadows. It's about trusting our intuition. We have a choice to make. We have a wolf. We have a dog. Can we tame it? Are we going to stay loyal to ourselves? Are we going to choose the middle path? So we have the sun and the moon all combined into one. So our happiness and it depends on our intuition. It depends on releasing these fears. We cannot let our fears control us. We must be in control of our fears, which is about taking this middle path, trusting in ourselves, trusting in the path that we've gone. Now, the moon also represents things that are hidden from you, but it's an external source. Somebody outside, the situation outside, something behind the scenes is being hidden that you cannot see. And when it's in reverse, okay, so I want to also add, the moon is the divine feminine. So when we have the cards, this is the divine feminine and this is the divine masculine. But when it's in reverse, we're not trusting our intuitions. Our fears are absolutely controlling us. There's secrets. There might even be lies and manipulation, things going on around us that we need to see. We need to trust our intuition. We could be ignoring it. And that's why we're not seeing some of these things that are out ahead of us, because we're not paying attention to our intuition. We're not taking a bite out of the tree of life. We're just ignoring it. So the moon is all about our fears, our subconscious, our blocks, and our intuition. And then we have the sun. Many think the sun's the happiest card in the deck, but it's not, and we'll get there in a minute. But it is a card of happiness. This is a card of success. This is a card of spiritual enlightenment. You've gone through the journey. You've built your foundation strong. There's no cracks in your tower anymore. That crack has been filled. These stones represent balance. They represent stability. You're basically riding off in the sunset, happy and content. This is true to yourself. This is also representing your ego, your consciousness. You're staying true. Your consciousness has grown. It's developed. You're no longer Pinocchio. You're a real boy or girl. You've created that part of yourself, that spiritual enlightenment, and you're truly happy and joyful. But in reverse, the sun is disappointment. The sun is letting our pride and our ego get in the way. It's not seeing our faults. It's maybe even being unrealistic with ourselves and with other people. I often see this in readings for perfectionists, where they seek perfection, but there is no perfection. Nothing, the journey's never done. We don't get to the world and then we're just like, yeah, we're perfect. It doesn't work that way. There's always something to heal. There's always something to work on, right? We always have flaws and things within ourselves. And it's about being realistic. It's about dropping the pride. It's about dropping the disappointment and understanding, again, how your choices can be changed in order to be a better reflection of yourself. And then after we've mastered ourselves, we're a master of our sun, we're a master of our ego, then we get judged, baby. Whether we're judging ourselves, whether other people are judging us, but this is about a rise of our ego. Our consciousness has gone through the process. We're coming out of this cycle. We're becoming the best version of ourselves. We've dropped our pride. We've dropped our ego. We understand the mistakes that we've made. We've forgiven ourselves for the mistakes that we made. This card is, again, about life-changing choices, very similar to the Lovers. There's a big change. There's a big choice in your life. And this is about staying true to yourself, but also knowing you're going to make the best decision. There's the Trumpet of Success. So this is the card of resurrection. It's the card of second chances. It's the card of ego death, coming forward and rising up and being the best version of yourself. And when Judgment is in reverse, again, it's being unrealistic. It's maybe judging yourself too harshly, judging others, being too critical of yourself, being too critical of others. But it's about a lack of realistic expectations. So it's a message that we still have some work to do with your consciousness, with your ego. You're not ready for the new cycle yet. There's still change within yourself. You still need to rise. You still need to see how your actions kind of got you into the situation that you're in. So Judgment in reverse is also a card of not being ready for something. So if you're sitting there asking yourself, am I ready to start my business? And the Judgment in reverse comes up, you have to ask yourself, is this realistic? Have I done my work? Have I done my planning? So there's something that you're not quite missing, you're not quite getting, and you still have some work to do in order to get your new cycle. And welcome to your new cycle, baby. Once you've gone through this journey, you've mastered the spiritual realm, you've mastered your fears, you've mastered yourself, you've learned the lessons that are to be learned. You get the world. You get your brand new cycle. So this is the happiest card in the deck. This is the success wreath. This is a pretty big ass success wreath. So this woman is dancing in the side of this success wreath. She's pretty happy. She's mastered the different elements. These are the elements of the tarot. This is the elements of our earth. These two cards come out. This is truly a master of inner alchemy and transmutation. It is a new cycle upon you. The old challenges, the old journey, the things that you've been through. You've learned what you've needed to learn. You've processed those feelings. You've transmuted them. And now you're ready for something new. The Fool. We'll get there in a sec. But if the world is in reverse, you're not getting your new cycle. There's unfinished business. There's things that have not been learned. There's challenges and lessons you need to work on. You need to do a little bit more self-reflecting. You need to work on the alchemy, the feelings within you. Your emotions might be controlling you, not the other way around. So this is the card of a cycle not being finished yet. There's still things you need to learn. There's still work that you need to do. It is not over. But when it is over, and that's when we get the Fool. And the Fool is the trump. The Fool is the wild card. It's a 0. It doesn't have a number because the Fool comes at any time in your life. There's no set period for this process. There's no right or wrong, guys. When we go through this journey, everybody is different. Everybody's on their own path. Everybody learns at their own speed. There's no right or wrong when it comes to life. There's just what's right or wrong for you. But understanding spiritual law, understanding these characters can allow you to make better choices in your life so that you get these new cycles. You can manifest your dream life. That's how I look at tarot. That's how I look at the major arcanas. It's a divination tool to help us make better choices so we can all live our best life yet. And that's when we get the Fool. We're going to take that leap of faith. We're going to get the beginning. He is ready. He is at peace. He is taking this journey. Now, when the Fool in reverse pops up in your reading, this means you might be taking your new journey prematurely. You might jump off that cliff and fall flat on your face, get a couple black eyes, a couple bruises, maybe even scrape your knees, but that's okay. It's a lesson that you had to learn. It's like when we start walking, we fall a lot. When we ride a bike, we fall a lot, but we just get back up, we get on that bike, we get on our feet, and we keep going. We see what we did wrong. We see how we made mistakes, and we learn from them. But this is a message, if this comes up in a reading, that you're not quite ready for this new beginning, or the risk that you're taking is not the right risk to take. You need to take a step back and evaluate things on a different level, because you might fall flat on your face. So you definitely want the Fool coming up. This is a new beginning. This is a new cycle, and that is a new adventure for you. So this is the first class. this is the major arcana. This is the first video. I'm going to try and put them into shorter videos. I hope it wasn't too long. I hope it was clear. Again, you don't need to memorize all that. Keep your book around you if you want as you start to go through the journey of learning to read the tarot for yourself. Keep them upright if you have to at the beginning until you learn the reversal meanings. But if a card comes up in reversal in your reading, I urge you to look it up if you don't know how to read it, because it's a different message. If you read it this way and it came down that way, you're not getting the message that the universe, your spirit team, wants to pass along to you, and you could be making a very big decision or a wrong decision in your life. So these are the major arcanas. This represents your soul's journey. This represents major energies and changes, major characters in your life. When it comes to characters and court cards, when they come up right, they have a positive influence in the querent or in your life. But when they come negative, they have a negative influence in the querent or in your life. So I hope you enjoyed this first video. I hope you enjoyed learning about the major arcanas. Next, we're going to move into the court cards, and we're going to talk about those and get you on your journey to reading the tarot. Until next time. Hello, and welcome to Blunt Savvy Tarot, and welcome to reading video class, whatever you want to call it, number 2. This video, we're going to focus on the court cards. We're going to talk about the court cards. We're going to talk about what they represent, who they are, how to read them. For a lot of readers, the court cards are very challenging because they can represent other people, but they can also represent energies within ourselves. So that you really need to trust your intuition as you're reading them, the cards around you, but you also have to understand what each card means. So when we're talking about, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. When we're talking about the different suits, we always have the page, the knight, the queen, and the wand. So this is a young energy. This is like a teenage energy. If we're looking at a family, this is the father, this is the wife, this is the teenager, this is the kid. So we got a whole courtyard here of different roles and responsibilities, different characteristics, different personalities. The wands always represent our passions, and they represent our business as well. If we're in a career and a business reading, the wands will represent how that business will go. But it's all about our passion, our fury, the things that get us going. In the tarot, the cups, the suit of cups represents our emotion, our intuition, our feelings, the way that we reflect on things. The pentacles always reflect about the material aspect of life, our finances, our money, hard, tangible options in this material realm that we live in called Earth. And our page of swords is about communication. It's about our thoughts. It's about that aspect of things. So each type of court card represents a different kind of person in your life. It could represent their zodiac sign. We'll talk about that. So this is fire, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. It could represent that they have a lot of fire or that their sun sign is fire. The cups are our water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, our sensitive signs, our intuitive signs. Or it could represent their sun sign, or they just have that heavy in their chart. The pentacles are our earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. So again, the practical, those who focus a lot on work, either workhorses, they're hard workers. And the swords are our air signs, the intellectual side of ourselves. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, that could be their sun sign. It could just be a reflection of them, or they could have those placements heavy in their chart. So let's talk about how we read the court cards. So when you're doing a reading, whether it's for yourself or whether it's for a querent, generally speaking, the court cards will represent other people in your life or the querent's life. If they come upright, they're just a representative of a person in their life. When they're down, they generally have a negative influence, negative opinions, or a negative part of that person's life. They're not positive. So let's talk about the court cards. Let's talk about what they mean. And now on a general and a high level, the pages typically represent young energy. And they typically represent messages coming through, information on the way. You know, in the old days, the pages were the ones that, brought the mail. They brought the message to the kings and to the queens. The knights are usually a lot of movement. When we see knights in a reading, they represent quick or slow movement, but they represent movement and change, flows and the ebbs and flows of our life, and things that are progressing or not progressing. And the queens represent the feminine energy. They represent the mothers, the sisters. They represent, bosses, those types of energies. But they represent mature females that are in our life. And the kings are mature males that are in our life. It represents either a version of herself or an aspect of someone else that the querent is dealing with. So let's go through each suit and let's talk about each court card and what they can mean for you. So the Page of Wands is, again, typically it's a message. This is a young woman, a young man, somebody sending you a message. It's a message you want. It's a good message. It's a happy message. It's a message of creativity. It's a message of blossoming. It's a message of new beginnings. But this is a message you want to hear. When the page is upside down, this is the querent or yourself receiving news or a message you do not want. You do not like what's being said. You do not like what's happening. You do not like what this person is saying or what this person is doing. Typically represents someone younger, but it could just represent somebody who's immature. So the Page of Wands is literally a message coming through that you do or do not like. And again, you look around the cards around it to see what kind of message it is. It could be a job offer. It could be a love. It could be a phone call. But the Page of Wands is a message. Now, the Knight of the Wands is very charismatic energy. He's very passionate. He's very, this guy pursues his dreams. If you're in a business reading, he is going after what he wants. Nothing will stop him from getting his goal. But the Knight of Wands can be very in and out. In a love reading, the Knight of Wands is a player. They have a lot of people around. They have a lot of passion. They go back and forth. They might get bored very easily. They lack direction. But it's a lot of forward movement. It's a lot of passionate movement. It's a lot of change. Now, when the Knight of Wands is in reverse, it means they have very scattered energy. They don't know what they want. They're pursuing this one day, pursuing that the other day, going over here, going over there. They haven't figured out what their dreams are. They haven't figured out what direction they want to go, which creates that circle, which creates those cycles that we get caught in. So very fiery, very passionate, pursuing their dreams, but when they're reversed, they don't know what they want. They have no idea where to go, where to move. There's not a lot of action. There's a lot of stagnancy. So it's just a very scattered energy. If you're manifesting and this Knight of Wands comes in reverse, the universe has no idea what you want. Your thoughts are focused on the negative, the positive, the past, the future, this, that. You're all over the place. So the Knight of Wands in reverse is a very scattered energy. Now the Queen of Wands, she is the most attractive queen in the deck. When the queen walks into this room, everybody looks at the queen. She demands respect. She doesn't ask for it. She walks in that room and gets it. So the Queen of Wands is a very good leader, natural born leader. She's born with certain gifts and certain skills, and she's very charismatic, very, very intelligent, but she's also very guided. This black cat represents the spiritual realm guiding her. She's on her path. She's doing what she's meant to do. She's in control, and nothing's going to stop her. Now, when the Queen of Wands is in reverse, watch out for that queen. She's very reactive. She's very heated. She's very quick to anger, very quick to yell, very quick to, she's very angry. She's an angry queen. So when the queen is coming up in reverse, it can be someone who's quick to criticize you, someone who's quick to get mad, someone who speaks before they think. But it's a very passionate, feminine energy who is a negative influence on you. When she's upright, she's very attractive. And she has a very positive, she's a good boss. She's someone that you want to work with. And again, the King of Wands is very similar, just a masculine energy. He's very attractive, the most attractive king in the deck. He's very passionate. He's hot pursuit of what he wants. He's a natural born leader. He has those natural skills. People respect him. He has good people skills. People want to be around the king. He just has that je ne sais quoi, that quality that makes things happen. But like the queen, when he's in reversed, he can be very angry. He can be very explosive. He can yell and just let his anger and his emotions get the best of him. So he's very controlling when he's in reverse. Same as the queen. I may not have mentioned that. Overly controlling, just overly controlling and pragmatic. So when they're in reverse, again, they have a negative influence on you or the querent. They're very quick to anger. They have a quick temper. They could be very controlling. They could be even very abusive. If you get the two things like this is someone who's abusive towards you. This is a narcissist. This is someone who has a very negative influence on you and your life. They're very critical of people. Now let's move over to the cups. So the Page of Cups, this is a very magical card. This is, again, a message you're going to get, but you're going to love it. It's exciting. It's new. It's almost feeling like too good to be true. There's a fish in this cup. That's weird. Why is there a fish in there? Because it's magical. It's exciting. So you're feeling good. You love the message that you get. You're excited. But when the Page of Cups is in reverse, very immature. He's acting immature. He's acting very selfish. He's acting like no one else matters. He's the only one that matters. He's not considering other people's opinions. So the Page of Cups in reverse is a very mature. It's a message that, like someone's like calls you a name, like when you're a kid, they're just like, they're acting like they're a baby. They're acting like they're 5. It's like, why are you acting like that? You're a grown ass person. But the Page of Cups is a very immature energy when he's in reverse. And again, it represents somebody younger and an exciting, a new and exciting message that you're getting. And the Knight of Cups. So the Knight of Cups is very romantic, very sweet. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He follows his heart. He's on a mission of love. So he's on his way to find love. That's his mission. That's his journey. He follows his heart, maybe a little too much, but he's focused on one thing, and that's what his heart is telling him to do. So usually in a reading, a knight represents an offer that's coming through. It represents direction that's going. He's a medium moving knight. Things aren't going really fast. Things aren't going really slow. He's just a knight that's following his heart, putting his heart out there. You can expect someone very honest and with a lot of integrity when the Knight of Cups comes upright. But when the Knight of Cups comes downright, again, similar to the Page, he's very immature. He lacks loyalty. If you're in a relationship reading and you get the Knight of Cups in reverse, he's not loyal to you. He's not going to show you the respect that you deserve. So it's a very immature, very petty, very disloyal energy from someone, again, a little bit younger. But somebody who's following their heart. They're very reactionary. Whether that's good or bad depends on the direction of the knight. Now, the Queen and the King are, again, very similar. They are the feminine, the masculine, the mother and the father. Very intuitive, very in touch with their feelings. Their emotions do not control them. They are both in a body of water, and yet they're staying calm, cool, and collective, focusing with their eye on the prize. They got one thing on their mind, and they're not going to let anything get in the way of them. They're controlling their feelings. They trust their intuition. They're very good leaders because they let their intuition guide them. They don't doubt themselves. But when they're in reverse, they're very emotionally manipulative. They're not in control of their emotions. Their emotions are overwhelming them. They don't know how to deal with all of the emotions that are going on. So they're overwhelmed. They're maybe even a little bit impatient. Maybe a little, I forgot to mention that too. When these are in reverse, all of them can be very impatient. When a fire sign is upside down, they're impatient. But it can be the same with the Queen and the King of Cups. They're losing their focus. They're not in control of their emotions. So they're very quick. They're just overwhelmed. The King and Queen of Cups in reverse is a masculine or a feminine energy who's overwhelmed. In a business reading, they're typically bosses, but they're in control when they're upright, and when they're downright, they're not trusting their intuition. They're completely ignoring their intuition. They're letting their feelings and emotions get the best of them. So move down here to the Pentacles, to the earth signs, to the tangible things. So the Page of Pentacles is an amazing offer that you want. This is earth magic. You manifested this. You wanted this. You asked for this. And baby, you're gonna. So this means that you've mastered certain aspects and the opportunities are being presented. This is the Ace of Pentacles coming through here, and it's just for you. It's a new beginning that's going to be very successful and abundant. Now, when this Page of Pentacles is in reverse, these are lessons. So it may not be a message. It might be a lesson that you've learned on this cycle or haven't learned, depending on the cards around it. But really, the Page of Pentacles in reverse is having learned or learning a very difficult lesson in your life, and it's something that you need to learn from. Most likely, it's a beginning that didn't go quite the way it was supposed to go, and there's something that you need to learn before you can get your new beginning here. And the Knight of Pentacles is a very slow-moving knight. He's got his Ace of Pentacles, and he's like, where should I plant my seeds? Where do I invest it? He crosses his T's, dots his I's. He looks at everything from a higher perspective, and he takes his time making decisions. He might be even too slow. He might take too long to make a decision or too long to come towards you. But this is stagnancy, not a lot of movement. This is planning. This is looking out and deciding where to go, what to do, and making, your list. If you have to, your pros and cons, trying to figure out what direction to take yourself in. He's in reverse. He's cutting corners. He's taking shortcuts. He's not looking at the bigger picture. He's not looking at the finer details. He's trying to rush through something, and he's going to miss something that's very important. If you're in a business reading and you have the Knight of Pentacles and you just signed a contract, you might sign that contract too quickly, and you didn't pay attention to the small print. So he's just cutting corners, trying to go about things too quickly. He's also kind of petty. So if you have people at work that come up as the Knight of Pentacles, they're very petty. They're very immature. They're very jealous. Sorry, the King and Queen of Cups are also in reverse, are very jealous. I forgot to mention that. My apologies. That's what I mean. There's so many different qualities to them, but the Knight of Pentacles is a little bit of all of that. And then we have the mother and the father, the bosses. So these are two people who are very abundant in their life. They might put too much focus on material, but they work, they're protective of their money, they take care of themselves, they take care of other people. Typically, they look good. People like the way that they dress, the way they do their makeup, the way they do their hair, the way they present themselves in public. They're abundant. They're wealthy. They take care of business. They are not living check to check, striving for money. They have a heavy focus on work, and they work hard for what they have, but they also put themselves first. They're kind of my favorite queen and king as a person, as a reader, because they take care of themselves. We can't just, sometimes the Queen of Cups can take care of other people and she's ignoring herself. It's like, well, wait a minute, you can't do that. So the king and the queen, they take care of business, they take care of themselves, and they share what they have. They're very protective, very abundant. Now, when we have the king and queen in reverse, these could be workaholics. These could be too dependent on work, too materialistic. They can be very selfish. The King of Pentacles in reverse, and they're very selfish people. They'll step on the little guy to get where they need to go. They have an imbalance between work and life. They just put work ahead of everything. They might even just put money ahead of everything. But money, money, money when they're in reverse. There's an imbalance, a sense of superficiality when it comes to the Queen and the King of Pentacles. In reverse, of course. And again, in reverse, they have a negative influence on the querent or on yourself. So then we're going to come to swords. We're coming to the air signs. We're coming to the cards of communication, cards of thought. Page of Swords. Again, this is a very young and studious energy. This can represent going to school. This represents learning. When we get a lot of pages in a reading, it means we can have a lot of younger people, or we have a lot of arguing, or we have someone in school. We have a teacher, or we have a bunch of students. So the Page of Swords is studious. He's learning. It's also the card of spying. So if you're in a love reading, someone's looking at your photographs or looking at your pictures online. So it's a card of being ready to learn what needs learned to enter the world. He's ready for battle, but he's not afraid to admit that he doesn't know everything and that he still has things that he needs to learn. And when the Page of Swords is in reverse, I always consider this a little bit of a block of communication. He thinks he knows everything. He's a little cocky. He's a little, a wise man knows that he knows nothing, and a fool thinks he knows everything. So he's a little bit of a fool, thinking that he or she is in control. They know everything, but really they don't. They have things that they still need to learn, lessons that still need to take place. And they're not doing it. They think they know everything. So when we have the Knight of Swords, this is a very quick energy. This is a very haste energy. He is like riding into battle. He's not even thinking. He didn't plan. He's very reactionary. The horse is like, oh my God, we're going too fast. We're going too fast. We need to slow down. So the Knight of Swords is reactionary. He just goes after what he wants. He sees something and boom, he goes it. It means that there's a lot of quick change, a lot of quick movement. Things are going to fly forward. Whether that's good or bad is going to depend on the cards around it. But the Knight of Swords is a very quick moving energy, very quick moving knight. He's going into battle without really knowing the answers, Someone could have come up and said, this person said this about you. And he just runs over to that person, starts talking instead of really thinking, did they? Why did this person come and talk to me and say this? What are their intentions? He doesn't think, he acts. And when he's in reverse, he's taking the time out. He's thinking before he acts. He's wondering if this is the best move. He's not just going into battle, going into war. He's kind of stopping and thinking about things and determining if this is the best decision for him. So it's a little bit of a block. Again, if it's communication, it could be a block in communication, a lack of communication, but ultimately he's taking the time to decide what to do. He's not rushing into something. And then we have the King and the Queen of Swords. So these are two women, I said two women, but a woman and a man scorned. They're divorcees, they're widowers, they've been around the block. People have treated these people less than stellar. There's wind going on here. The clouds are moving. There's a lot of shakiness, but they stand tall. They're logical. They're very intelligent. They're very strategic. They got their eye on the prize, very similar to them, but they're going to do what it takes. Highly intelligent entities and beings that are coming forth. Now, when they're in reverse, they have no emotion. Their heart's closed off. Their chakras are closed. They're not thinking about their feelings. They're not thinking about other people. They could be overcritical. They could even be abusive with their words. These are very unpleasant people. You don't want to run into the King and Queen of Swords. It usually turns into an argument, especially when they're in reverse. If you get a King and a Queen of Swords in the same reading, this is a couple who is pissed. They're mad. They're angry with each other. There's no feelings. They're just moving forward logically and strategically. And again, upside down, very critical. Could even be over demanding, overly abusive, but very mean with their words. They have no heart. Their heart is gone. They're in reverse. Watch out for these people. Very ugly energy when they're upside down, but they're highly intelligent. They're very strategic, and they're going to go after what they want. They got the sword, right? The Ace of Swords. So they got the sword of truth here. They're honest. They're not going to lie. But when they're in reverse, yeah, they're probably lying to you. Probably lying to you about a lot of things. So those are the court cards. So again, this kind of represents a family. The father, the mother, the teenager, and the son. This is a young energy. This is a teenage energy. This is the feminine, and this is the masculine energy. When you're doing a reading, Try to always read the court cards upside down if they come upside down, because it represents different personality. You know, when you come across the King of Wands in a reading upright, he's a great leader, but if he's upside down, whoa, that person's going to be very up, you know, it's a different person. It represents a different side of them or a different side of you. So I hope that helps. The court cards are probably one of the harder parts to read, but I hope that summary helps you to incorporate them into your readings and to be able to help yourself determine the type of people that you're coming across in your life or the energies that you're projecting. So after the court cards, we're going to move into the different suits, and we're going to go over the cards in the suits and the different suits that you're going to use in your tarot. So thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying this so far. Let's get to the next video. Until next time. Hello, and welcome back to Blunt Saggy Tarot, Tarot 101. Let's talk about the suit of swords. So now we're going to talk about the minor arcana. We're going to start with the swords. So the minor arcanas are about our daily things, the things we feel on a daily basis, the decisions the things that we're experiencing. So they're the smaller energies. They're not felt heavily in our life as the major arcanas. They also don't represent people. They represent things that are going on around us or within us. So the swords, as mentioned in the previous part about the court cards, swords are all about communication. They're all about our thoughts. They're all about the things that are going on inside of our mind. So we're just going to move through them 1 through 10 to make sure you have understanding of what each one means. But again, no card means just one thing. There's different things that they can mean, but we're going to go over the basics because this is just an introductory to understand the basics. Let's get into it. The Ace of Swords. This represents a new beginning. This is something new on the horizon, a new experience that's coming your way that the universe is giving to you. It represents an epiphany. So an idea, something that you have, but it's going to be successful. So it's a successful new start, a successful change in your life. It could be an idea and a download, something that's been given just to you. It's also the card of communication. So if you're waiting communication, you want to hear from somebody, you'll be hearing from them. The Ace of Swords represents communication, new beginnings, and new ideas. Now, when the Ace of Swords is in reverse, it also represents clarity. Because when it's in reverse, you're confused. There's a lack of communication. You don't know what's going on. You don't understand what's happening. There's a sense of confusion, a sense of a beginning that didn't quite right. Something going on that has confusion written all over it. Or you're not talking to somebody. There's a block here. It could be a block within yourself. It could be a block with another person. But the Ace of Swords is a lack of communication, a lack of a beginning. It's a block. It is confusion. And that can also lead you to a fork in the road. This is about a decision that needs to be made. The point of the card is you may not have all the answers to make this decision because she's blindfolded, but you must make a decision. You could also be blocking your heart in this decision and just using your mind and not using your emotion to create this beginning or this decision that you have to make. But this is a fork in the road. So when you come to layout and you have the Two of Swords, you have to look on the cards on one side and the other to see what the person's deciding between, because those cards will tell you what they're trying to choose from, or you, and what the decision is. Now, when the Two of Swords is in reverse, the decision's been made. There's no more crossroads. The decisions, this person, the querent, you have made a decision. You're moving one way or the other. You're not blocking your path forward anymore. You're ready to move forward. So you're coming out of stagnancy. You're coming out of that fork in the road energy. Now, the Three of Swords is exactly how it looks. Heartache, sorrow, heartbreak. Somebody betrayed you. Somebody stabbed you in the back. Somebody hurt you. There's a lot of emotions here. There's a lot of sadness here. When you're looking at the Rider-Waite deck, you can tell the mood of the card by the background. When there's a lot of yellow, it's usually a happy card, a positive card. When there's a lot of blue, it's clear skies. When there's a lot of gray, it's confusion, pain, sorrow, things changing. And then when there's black, that's really bad. That means that there's serious things going on. Three of Swords upright is hurt. It's sorrow. Someone's upset. And when it is in reverse, it means that the healing has begun. The swords are coming out. Lessons have been learned. You know, pain was a while back. It's in the past. The person's moving forward and they're not really hurt over the situation anymore. Now, the Four of Swords is a card of withdrawal. It is a card pulling back from an external source. So it's pulling back from a situation outside of yourself to go within yourself to decide what's the best move. You could be praying, you could be meditating. This glass pane represents divine guidance, asking for guidance. But the point of the card is you have the answers because there's the sword that's hidden. You have the truth within yourself. You know what needs to be done. You just need to take a pause back and take some reflection, some time to reflect and some time to decide what's best to do. But ultimately, this is a card of withdrawal, pulling yourself out of a situation. When the Four of Swords is in reverse, it's representative of a burnout. It's time to take time for yourself. This is about self-care. This is doing what's best for you, taking a spa day, going to a ball game, whatever you need to do to kind of relax yourself, remove the stress that you've been going through. This is about self-care, coming out of withdrawal, but doing what's best for you. Now, the Five of Swords is not the most pleasant card in the tarot. This represents an argument, a conflict. This person here thinks they won, but this person here will also fight to the death. They're going to say and do whatever they need to win. And here they are, all happy and all smug, thinking they won. But the fact is, those people walked away from them. So you or the querent could be this person, or you or the querent could be the person walking away. You have to look at the cards around it. But they've laid down their swords. They're done fighting. They're done arguing. It's a one-sided argument now. It's done. They don't want to deal with it anymore. And when the card comes in reverse, that means you're at peace with it. The argument, the conflict is over. It's done. Everybody's over this. Nobody's mad anymore. Nobody's upset. You're at peace with what it is that happened, and you can move forward with an open heart. Usually the people in the argument are no longer arguing or having a conflict. There's this sense of peace and moving forward. And that's when we move to the Six of Swords. For me as a tarot reader, this is my spiritual test and transition card. So you've learned your test, you've passed your test. You might be defeated, you might be hurt, you might have had some major obstacles. You're going from rocky waters though to smooth waters. This is the card of moving forward. You could physically be moving, but this is the card of forward movement, moving in a different direction, or moving forward with, there's some people here. You're just moving forward to smoother waters. When the Six of Swords is in reverse, lessons haven't been learned yet. There's still things to learn. There's a sense of stagnancy. Things are not going forward. There's a blockage on your path forward, but you feel very stuck in a situation, like it's out of your control and you can't get to where you need to go. So it's an energy of stuck. It's an energy of lack of movement. It's an energy of not learning the lessons yet. There's still things that have to be learned before you can move forward. And then we come to the Seven of Swords. So the Seven of Swords can mean a few different things, the Seven of Swords. But ultimately what's happening in this card is this guy is stealing these swords and he's looking back to see if he's getting caught. He's like, hey, I'm getting away with it. But is he? Is he really getting away with it? So he's being sneaky. He's being a liar. He's cheating. This is a card of deceit. So if it comes up in a reading, you could be deceiving yourself, or somebody could be lying, cheating, and stealing from you. So keep an eye out for that. Now, it could also be strategy. If you're in a business reading, look at the cards around. It could be strategy, coming up with a strategy in order to move forward. No longer are you going to look back. You're turning your head and you're moving forward. And again, when the card is in reverse, the Seven of Swords is finding out the truth. When it's this way, it might be hidden. You might not know this person's cheating, lying, stealing, whatever that would be. But when it's in reverse, it's the truth coming to light. You're learning things about somebody or a situation that might be a difficult thing to learn, but you're seeing somebody or something for who they are or what it is. So this is secrets coming to light. You're realizing these things. This is still secrets, but you don't know yet. You're not aware of that's going on. Now, the Eight of Swords is all about being trapped in our mind. This is a mental prison. She's literally trapped in her thoughts, negative thoughts, sorrow. She's feeling sorry for herself. She's the victim. She's hurt. She's upset. She's focusing on the negative, the obstacles, the challenges. But the point of the card is she just has to take the sword, cut the rope. It's a self-imprisonment. It's us that are prisoning ourselves in this thought. So these are when our thoughts are controlling us and there's just way too much thinking going on. And the querent or yourself needs to take a pull back here and stop thinking so much. Silence their mind. Go do something fun. But this is about letting our thoughts trap us. And when the Eight of Swords is in reverse, no longer do your thoughts trap you. You've got control of those thoughts. You've cut the rope and you've freed yourself from the mental prison that you had yourself in, or the querents, whoever you're reading for. But this is about removing the negative thoughts and not letting your thoughts control you anymore. You're moving on. You're realizing that that does not benefit you. But when you're stuck here, it's nothing but gray skies, right? Look at all the gray. So it's a very pessimistic card, looking at the negative of things instead of focusing on the positive of them. Very similar to the Nine of Swords. This is the card of defeat. This is the card of blaming yourself. In this little box here, there's a fencing match and this guy's just been stabbed and he's defeated. He lost. There's blood on the pillow. So this could be a card of self-blame, self-deceit, but this is a card of being up all night thinking about something, nightmares, dreams, just worry. This is a card of worrying about something, worrying that it's not going to work out. But this is a card of stress, frustration, overthinking. There's just a lot going on in your mind and you can't sleep. or you could blame yourself for something that you did or something that you let somebody do for you, to you. And when it comes in reverse, again, it's similar to that. It's just moving forward. There are some readers who believe that it means the same, but I don't read it that way. But take it how it resonates with you. For me, when the Nine of Swords is in reverse, you're coming out of that. You're not blaming yourself. You realize certain lessons. You're understanding certain things. You're not up at night anymore. You're getting a good night's sleep. You no longer feel defeated. You're no longer looking at things with a pessimistic view. You're being optimistic about where you're going, and you're not letting your thoughts kind of control you and betray you anymore. And that's when we move to the Ten of Swords. The Ten of Swords is a very painful ending. Someone stabbed you in the back, maybe even multiple stabbed you in the back. People trusted hurt you. This is a card of sorrow, a card of pain. But the Ten of Swords is the ending. So that's behind you. It's also a card of healing. A lot of people are very scared of this card, but it's a card of healing. There's the sun. It's coming up. So these lessons are behind you. That pain is behind you. It's not happening right now. It was happening in the past. And it's about taking those swords out and healing from it. That's what it comes in reverse. It means that you, Aquarian, has done that. Those pains, those lessons, they're just memories. We can let them hold us back, or we can learn from them and move forward. And those are the choices that we make every day. So it's about learning from the lessons, learning from these people, removing the swords, and moving forward. So, but either way, the 10 is the end of a cycle and a new cycle is beginning. So that was the past. This is the present. How are you going to move forward? Maybe how are you going to move forward? So the swords do have a lot of the negative cards in the tarot. But again, it's important to read them down. And if you're not comfortable, just remember that it's usually the opposite. It's the easiest way to remember how to read reversals. This is heartache. This is healing. This is fighting. This is not fighting. This is a card of withdrawal. This is a card of moving forward. So a lot of times it's just the opposite meaning is the easiest way to remember how to read your reversals. But if you keep your deck upright and a card comes in reversal, I urge you to be able to take it in reverse to get the message. Otherwise, you're not getting the proper message to your querent or to yourself. So that's the card of the swords. Again, the swords are about our thoughts. They're about our what's going on in our minds and clarity and or confusion. But it really is about mostly our thoughts and communication. So that is the suits of swords. We're going to move on to the suit of wands next. I'll see you then.
All right, we're going to get here. That was, she hadn't done lesson 4 yet. That was lessons 1, 2 through 3. See, can we get us some with my Aries baby at? Or do I want to listen to this? We'll get Mystic Tory in.
In fantasy. Some of you may be feeling like
Here we go.
you don't have a lot of clarity in situations, and it could just be because you're at a crossroads, and you're being asked to walk by faith and not by sight. But also some of you may have people who are actively trying to get into your dreams somehow, like your actual dreams, to figure out what exactly are you manifesting. I will recommend that you are for sure like saying everything, of course, at night before bed, to make sure that people coming to your dream state trying to get you to go into excuse me, very like different covenants or contracts or agreements with them. Because if you've been following my channel recently, I've been talking about you renouncing yourself from contracts and agreements that you may have consciously or unconsciously went into with things that will tie you into some type of darkness. Okay, so there could be anything or anyone. It could be a friendship, and birds of a feather, living that set apart life a lot because of
Sun, moon, and stars into. Greetings, suns and moons. And of course, I have to welcome back all my stars. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the mothership. I do appreciate all of you for your likes, your donations, the confirmations you send me through email, positive energy you show me, the positive energy you show yourself, and overall the positive way you show up in the planet. Now, with that being said, let's get in there like a swimwear. There is a lot of arguments taking place because the truth, somebody is silent in this truth, okay? There's going to be a lot of denial. It's going to be a lot of projection, all right? This is past, present, or future energies. Parts may resonate with you, parts may not. Take what's for you and leave the rest. This could be someone thinking of you. You're thinking of them, an ex, a co-worker, a past over loved one. You may or may not know these individuals. Any and all information that you need about me or regarding this reading shall be in the description box below, including the link where you receive a free birth chart from a reputable site affiliation to me. I want to welcome back all my stars, all my viewers, my subscribers, and especially my members, all right? I will not solicit you for my services. I will not reach out to you. You have to reach out to me via email only. If you're a correspondent, anyone on any platform, be mindful because it is not me, all right? We got someone using their intuition and moving forward, okay? Taking hard control over their environment, all right? I'm hearing this is destined to be. I see Libra. I see balancing, okay? And this is causing someone some emotional turmoil here. Somebody made a bad investment here, okay? Someone wants to sway someone's perspective in their direction, and this person is not going for it. Be mindful. We're in the energy of taking accountability for our actions. We all do wrong, okay? I'm here. We all fall short from his glory. I don't know if some of y'all been in your Bible or what's happening here, but we got Jupiter, Sagittarius, Piscean energy. We have Libra, Justice and Sun, Leo, Cancer, Fire, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, and the World card with Capricorn. Now, you do not have to have any of those signs dominant in your chart. I'm going to explain to where, if this resonates with you, it resonates. Jupiter is speaking about the Wheel of Fortune. Since it's on the fence like that, this is bad luck for someone, but also good luck for someone else, okay? Because this is someone that believes they are your rival or your adversary here. This is someone that is out of because they don't have control. The scales are balanced, all right? There is energy that is blocking off this person. You may be taking control of your life and you are operating out of your higher self and you're blocking this individual from your space, your energy, all right? So we have Chariot and we have the fire element. This is alchemy. So somebody is facing some karma for what in secret. This has been realized by not just you, but a collective of people this is happening to. With 13 sticking out, we're definitely talking about ancestors, okay? We're talking about some of you embracing the unknown, okay? Somebody may have been defiant. You may also be having some issues with your children. It just depends on what perspective, who's watching this, okay? We got the chance to boost health and vitality leads to satisfaction. Moon in Virgo. You have a moon in Virgo. Eclipse in Capricorn could be significant. You could have Capricorn in your sun, moon rising. Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, or Venus, or what I mean is this is about your stability. This is about changing your direction, possibly changing your faith, okay? Somebody be dropping the need to always showboat and be flashy. This is someone that's focused more on their future and less on the outside exterior of what people may think. Why is justice here? I feel like there is some inner child healing that needs to take place. Maybe you've done and you have moved away from a toxic environment, and this is causing someone to some turmoil here, okay? They have felt like they gave up too soon on you, okay, or on their healing. This may be someone that settled. Maybe you felt like you settled, okay? You may suffer from self-esteem issues or something that's hidden from you. Possibly this is how you operate. You make moves from your subconscious. Okay?
Yeah.
The old appeals to racial, sexual, and religious chauvinism, to rabid nationalist fervor, are beginning not to work.
Business of who I am and what I'm good or bad or achieving or not, all that's learned along the way.
Just a ride. We can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money.
I realized that I had the game wrong. That the game was to find out what I already was.
We were saying how very important it is to bring about in the human mind the radical revolution. The crisis is a crisis in consciousness, a crisis that not anymore accept the old norms, the old patterns, the ancient traditions. And considering what the world is now, with all the misery, conflict, destructive brutality, aggression, and so on, as he was, is still violent, aggressive, competitive, and he has built a society along these lines.
Yeah, hold on just a minute. I need to skip this time. 119. Okay.
Society today is composed of a series of institutions. From political institutions, legal institutions, religious institutions, to institutions of class, familial values, and occupational specialization. It is obvious the profound influence these traditionalized structures have in shaping our understandings and perspectives. Yet, of all the social institutions we are born into, directed by, and conditioned upon, there seems to be no system as taken for granted and misunderstood monetary system.
Yeah.
Taking on nearly religious proportions, the established monetary institution exists as one of the most unquestioned forms of faith there is. How money is created, the policies which it is governed, and how it truly affects are unregistered interests of the great majority of the population. In a world where 1% of the population owns 40% of the planet's wealth, in a world where 34,000 children die every single day from poverty and preventable diseases, and where 50% of the world's population lives on less than $2 a day, one thing is clear: something is very wrong. And whether we are aware of it or not, the lifeblood of all of our established institutions, and thus society itself, is money. Therefore, understanding this institution of monetary policy is critical to understanding why our lives are the way they are. Unfortunately, economics is often viewed with confusion and boredom. Endless streams of financial jargon coupled with intimidating mathematics quickly deters people from attempts at understanding it. However, the fact is, the complexity associated with the financial system is a mere mask, designed to conceal one of the most socially paralyzing structures humanity has ever endured. A number of years ago, the Central Bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve, produced a document entitled Modern Money Mechanics. This publication detailed the institutionalized practice of money creation as utilized by the Federal Reserve and the web of global commercial banks it supports. On the opening page, the document states its objective. The purpose of this booklet is to describe the basic process of money creation in a fractional reserve banking system. It then proceeds to describe this fractional reserve process through various banking terminology, a translation of which goes something like this. The United States government decides it needs some money, so it calls up the Federal Reserve and requests, say, $10 billion. The Fed replies, saying, sure, we'll buy $1 billion in government bonds from you. So the government takes some pieces of paper, paints some official-looking designs on them, and calls them treasury bonds. Then it puts a value on these bonds to the sum of $10 billion and sends them over to the Fed. In turn, the people at the Fed draw up a bunch of impressive pieces of paper themselves, only this time calling them them Federal Reserve notes, also designating a value of $10 billion to the set. The Fed then takes these notes and trades them for the bonds. Once this exchange is complete, the government then takes the $10 billion in Federal Reserve notes and deposits it into a bank account. And upon this deposit, the paper notes officially become legal tender money, adding $10 billion to the U.S. money supply. And there it is. $10 billion in new money has been created. Of course, this example is a generalization, for, in reality, this transaction would occur electronically, with no paper used at all. In fact, only 3% of the U.S. money supply exists in physical currency. The other 97% essentially exists in computers alone. Now, government bonds are, by design, instruments of debt. And when the Fed purchases these bonds, with money it essentially created out of thin air, the government is actually promising to pay back that money to the Fed. In other words, the money was created out of debt. Paradigm of how more value can be created out of debt or a liability will become more clear as we further this exercise. The exchange has been made and $1 billion sits in a commercial bank account. Here's where it gets really interesting. For as based on the fractional reserve practice, that $10 billion deposit instantly becomes part of the bank's reserves, just as all deposits do. And regarding reserve requirements, as stated in modern money mechanics, a bank must maintain legally required reserves equal to a private percentage of its deposits. It then quantifies this by stating, under current regulations, the reserve requirement against most transaction accounts is 10%. This means that the $10 billion deposit, 10% or $1 billion, is held as the required reserve, while the other $9 billion is considered an excessive reserve and can be used as the basis for new loans. Now, it is logical to assume that this $9 billion is literally coming out of the existing $10 billion deposit. However, this is actually not the case. What really happens is that the $9 billion is simply created out of thin air on top of the existing $10 billion deposit. This is how the money supply is expanded. As stated in modern money mechanics, of course they, the banks, do not really pay out loans from the money they receive as deposits. If they did this, no it dated. What they do when they make loans is to accept promissory notes, loan contracts, in exchange for credits, money, to the borrower's transaction accounts. In other words, the $9 billion can be created out of nothing simply because there is a demand for such a loan and that there is a $10 billion deposit to satisfy the reserve requirements. Now, let's assume that somebody walks into this bank and borrows the newly available $9 billion. They will then most likely take that money and deposit it into their own bank account. The process then repeats, for that deposit becomes part of the bank's reserves. 10% is isolated, 90% of the $9 billion, or $8.1 billion, is now available as newly created money for more loans. And of course, that 8.1 can be loaned out and redeposited, creating an additional 7.2 billion to 6.5 billion to 5.9 billion, etc. This deposit creation loan cycle can technically go on to infinity. The average mathematical result is that about $90 billion can be created on top of the original $10 billion. In other words, for every deposit that ever occurs in the banking system, about 9 times that amount can be created out of thin air.
Money jitters. Ask the obliging Bank of America for a jar of soothing instant money, M-O-N-E-Y, in the form of a convenient personal loan.
So, now that we understand how money is created by this fractional reserve banking system, a logical yet elusive question might come to mind. What is actually giving this newly created money value? The answer? The money that already exists. The new money essentially steals value from the existing money supply. For the total pool of money is being increased irrespective to demand for goods and services. And as supply finds equilibrium, prices rise, diminishing the purchasing power of each individual dollar. This is generally referred to as inflation, and inflation is essentially a hidden tax on the public.
What is the advice that you generally get? And that is inflate the currency. They don't say debase the currency. They don't say devalue the currency. They don't say people who are saved. They say lower the interest rates. The real deception is when we distort the value of money. When we create money out of thin air, we have no savings, and yet there's so-called capital. My question boils down to this: how in the world can we expect to solve the problems of inflation, that is, the increase in the supply of money, with more inflation?
Of course, it can't. The fractum of monetary expansion is inherently inflationary, for the act of expanding the money supply without there being a proportional expansion of goods and services in the economy will always debase a currency. In fact, a quick glance at the historical values of the US dollar versus the money supply reflects this point definitively, for the inverse relationship is obvious. $1 in 1913 required $20.60 in 2007 to match value. That is a 96% devaluation since the Federal Reserve came into existence. Now, if this reality of inherent and perpetual inflation seems absurd and economically self-defeating, hold that thought, for absurdity is an understatement in regard to how our financial system really operates. For in our financial system, money is debt, and debt is money. Here is a chart of the U.S. money supply from 1950 to 2006. Here is a chart of the U.S. national debt for the same period. How interesting it is that the trends are virtually the same. The more money there is, the more debt there is. The more debt there is, the more money there is. To put it a different way, every single dollar in your wallet is owed to somebody by somebody. For remember, the only way the money can come into existence is from loans. Therefore, if everyone in the country were able to pay off, including the government, there would not be $1 in circulation. In fact, the last time in American history the national debt was paid off was in 1835, after President Andrew Jackson shut down the central bank that preceded the Federal Reserve. In fact, Jackson's entire political platform essentially revolved around his commitment to shut down the central bank, stating at one point, "The bold efforts the present bank has made to control the government are but premonitions of the fate that awaits the American people. They be deluded into a perpetuation of this institution or the establishment of another like it." Unfortunately, his message lived, and the international bankers proceeded to install another central bank in 1913, the Federal Reserve. And as long as this institution exists, perpetual debt is guaranteed. Now, so far we have discussed the reality that is created out of debt through loans. These loans are based on a bank's reserves, and reserves derived from deposits. And through this fractional reserve system, any one deposit can create 9 times its original value, in turn debasing the existing money supply, raising prices in society. And since all this money is created out of debt and circulated randomly through commerce, people be detached from their original debt, and a disequilibrium exists where people are forced to compete for labor in order to pull enough money out of the money supply to cover their costs of living. As dysfunctional and backwards as all of this might seem, there is still one thing we have omitted, and it is this element of the structure which reveals the truly fraudulent nature of the system itself: the application of interest. When the government borrows money from the Fed, or a person borrows money from a bank, it almost always has to be paid back with accrued interest. In other words, almost every single dollar that exists must be eventually returned to a bank with interest paid as well. But if all money is borrowed from the central bank and is expanded by commercial banks through loans, Only what would be referred to as the principal
This
is
is
being
fair
created
use.
in the
Fair
money
use.
side. So then, where is the money to cover all of the interest that is charged? Nowhere. It doesn't exist. The ramifications of this are staggering, for the amount of money owed back to the banks will always exceed the amount of money that is available in circulation. This is why inflation is a constant in the economy, for new money is always needed to help cover the perpetual deficit built into the system, caused by the need to pay the interest. What this also means is that mathematically, defaults and bankruptcy are literally built into the system, and there will always be poor pockets of society that get the short end of the stick. An analogy would be a game of musical chairs, for once the music stops, somebody is left out to dry. And that's the point. It invariably transfers true wealth from the individual to the banks. For if you are unable to pay for your mortgage, they will take your property. This is particularly enraging when you realize that not only is such a default inevitable due to the fractional reserve practice, also because of the fact that the money that the bank loaned to you didn't even legally exist in the first place. In 1969, there was a Minnesota court case involving a man named Jerome Daly, who was challenging the foreclosure of his home by the bank which provided the loan to purchase it. His argument that the mortgage contract required both parties, being he and the bank, each put up a legitimate form of property for the exchange. In legal language, this is called consignation. Mr. Daly explained that the money was, in fact, not the property of the bank, for it was created out of nothing as soon as the loan agreement was signed. Remember what modern money mechanics stated loans? What they do when they make loans is to accept promissory notes in exchange for credits. Reserves are unchanged by the loan transactions, but deposit credits constitute new additions to the total deposits of the banking system. In other words, the money doesn't come out of their existing assets. The bank is simply inventing it, putting up nothing of its own, except for a theoretical on paper. As the court case progressed, the bank's president, Mr. Morgan, took the stand, and in personal memorandum, he recalled that the plaintiff, bank's president, admitted that, in combination with the Federal Reserve Bank, did create the money and credit upon its books by bookkeeping entry. The money and credit first came into existence when they created it. Mr. Morgan admitted that no United States law or statute existed which gave him the right to do this. A lawful consideration must exist and be tendered to support the note. The jury found that there was no lawful consideration, and I agree. He also poetically added, only God can create something of value out of nothing. And upon this revelation, the court rejected the bank's claim for foreclosure, and Daly kept his home. The implications of this court decision are immense. For every time you borrow money from a bank, whether it is a mortgage loan or a credit card charge, the money given to you is not only counterfeit, it is an illegitimate form of consideration, and hence voids the contract to repay, for the bank never had the money as property to begin with. Unfortunately, such legalizations are suppressed and ignored, and the game of perpetual wealth transfer and perpetual debt continues. And this brings us to the ultimate question: why? During the American Civil War, President Lincoln bypassed the high-interest loans offered by the European banks and do what the Founding Fathers advocated, which was to create an independent and inherently debt-free currency. It was called the greenback. Shortly after this measure was taken, an internal document circulated between private British and American interests stated, "Slavery is but the owning of labor and carries with it the care of laborers, while the European plan is that capital shall control labor by controlling wages. This can be done by controlling the money. It will not to allow the greenback, as we cannot control that." The fractional reserve policy perpetrated by the Federal Reserve, which has spread in practice to the great majority of banks in the world, is, in fact, a system of modern slavery. Think about it. Money is created out of debt. what do people do when they are in debt? They submit to employment to pay it off. But if money can only be created out of loans, how can society ever be debt-free? It can't, and that's the point. And it is the fear of losing assets coupled with the struggle to keep up with the perpetual debt and inflation inherent in the system, compounded by the inescapable scarcity within the money supply itself, created by the interest that can never be repaid, that keeps the wage in line, running on the hamster wheel with millions of others, in effect powering that truly benefits only the elite at the top of the pyramid. For, at the end of the day, who are you really working for? The banks. Money is created in a bank and invariably ends up in a bank. They are the true masters, along with the corporations and governments they support. Physical slavery requires people to be housed and fed. Economic slavery requires people to feed and house themselves. It is one of the most ingenious scams for social manipulation ever created, and at its core, it is an invisible war against the population. It is the weapon used to conquer and enslave societies, and interest is its prime ammunition. And as the majority walks around oblivious to this reality, the banks, in collusion with governments and corporations, continue to perfect and expand their tactics of economic warfare, spawning new bases, such as the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, while also inventing a new type of soldier, the birth of the economic hitman.
We economic hitmen really have been the ones responsible for creating this global empire, and we work many different ways. But perhaps the most common is that we will identify a country that has resources our corporations covet, like oil, and then arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sister organizations. But the money never actually goes to the country. Instead, it goes to our big corporations to build infrastructure projects in that country, power plants, industrial parks, ports, things that benefit a few rich people in that country, in addition to our corporations, but really don't help the majority of the people at all. However, those people, the whole country is left holding a huge debt. It's such a big debt they can't repay it, and that's part of the plan, that they can't repay it. And so at some point, we economic hitmen go back to them and say, listen, you owe us a lot of money, can't pay debt, so sell your oil real cheap to our oil companies. Allow us to build a military base in your country, or send troops in support of ours to someplace in the world like Iraq, or vote with us on the next UN vote, to have their electric utility company privatized and their water and sewage system privatized and sold to U.S. corporations or other multinational corporations. So there was that whole mushrooming thing, and it's so typical of the way the IMF and the World Bank work, that you put a country in debt, it's such a big debt it can't pay it, and then you offer to refinance that debt and pay even more interest. And you demand this quid pro quo, which we call a conditionality or good governance, which means basically that they've got to sell off their resources, including many of their social services, their utility companies, their school systems, sometimes their penal systems, their insurance systems, to foreign corporations. So it's a double, triple, quadruple whammy. The precedent for economic hitmen really began back in the early 50s when democratically elected Mossadegh, who was elected in Iran. He was considered to be the hope for democracy in the Middle East and around the world. He was Time Magazine's Man of the Year. But one of the things that he'd run on and began to implement was the idea that foreign oil companies needed to pay the Iranian people a lot more for the oil that they were taking out of Iran. The Iranian people should benefit from their own oil. Strange policy. We didn't like that, of course. But we were afraid to do what we normally were doing, which was to send in the military. Instead, we sent in one CIA agent, Kermit Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt's relative, And Kermit went in with $a few million and was very, very effective and efficient. And in a short amount of time, he managed to get Mossadegh over and brought in the Shah of Iran to replace him, who always was favorable to oil. And it was extremely effective.
Pablo Tehran. Army officers shout that Mossadegh has surrendered and his regime as virtual dictator of Iran is ended. Pictures of the Shah are paraded through the streets as sentiment reverses. The Shah is welcomed home.
So back here in the United States, in Washington, people looked around and said, wow, that was easy and cheap. So this established a whole new way of manipulating countries, of creating empire. The only problem with Roosevelt was that he was a card-carrying CIA agent, and had he been caught, the ramifications could have been pretty serious. So very quickly at that point, the decision was made to use private consultants to channel the money through the World Bank or the IMF or one of the other such agencies, people like me who worked for private companies, so that if we got caught, there would be no governmental ramifications. When Arbenz became president of Guatemala, the country was very much under the thumbs of United Fruit Company, the big international corporations. And Arbenz ran on this ticket that says, you know, we want to get the land back to the people. And once he took power, he was implementing policies that would do exactly that, give land rights back to the people. United Fruit didn't like that very much. And so they hired a public relations firm, launched a huge campaign in the United States to convince the United States people, the citizens of the United States, and the press of the United States, and the Congress of the United States, that Arbenz was a Soviet puppet, and that if we allowed him to stay in power, the States would have a foothold in this hemisphere, and that at that point in time was a huge fear on everybody's mind, the Red Terror, the Communist Terror. And so, to make a long story short, out of this public relations campaign came a commitment on the part of the CIA and the military to take this man out. And in fact, we did. We sent in planes, we sent in soldiers, we sent everything in to take him out, and did take him out. And as soon as he was removed from office, the new guy that took over after him basically reinstated everything to the big international corporations, including United Fruit. Ecuador for many, many years had been ruled by pro-US dictators, often relatively brutal. Then it was decided that they were going to have a truly democratic election. Jaime Roldos ran for office. And his main goal, he said, as president would be to make sure that Ecuador's resources were used to help them. And he won, overwhelming, by more votes than anybody had ever won anything in Ecuador. And he began to implement these policies to make sure that the profits from oil went to help the people. Well, we didn't like that in the United States. I was sent down as one of several economic hitmen to change Roldos, to corrupt him, to bring him around, to let him know, you know, okay, you know, you can get very rich, you and your family, if you play our game, but if you continue to try to keep these policies you've promised, you're going to go. He wouldn't listen. He was assassinated. As soon as the plane crashed, the whole area was cordoned off. The only people allowed in were the U.S. military from a nearby base and some of the Ecuadorian military. When an investigation was launched, 2 of the key witnesses died in car accidents before they had a chance to testify. A lot of very, very strange things that went on around the assassination of Jaime Roldos. I, like most people who've really looked at this case, have absolutely no doubt that it was an assassination. And of course, in my position as an economic man, I was always expecting something to happen to Jaime, whether it be a coup or assassination, I wasn't sure, but that he would be taken down because he was not being corrupted. He would not allow himself to be corrupted the way we wanted to corrupt him.
They go always some shit like that when you be trying to damn put that damn that truth out there.